Welcome to the Lights Out podcast. Today joining me is a very talented upcoming Asian female footballer, Yasmin Aslam. Welcome Yasmin and thank you for coming on. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
You're welcome, and I'm glad to be on.
So Yasmin, I understand currently you're at university studying medicine and you're also playing professional football. Tell us a little bit about that.
So, I'm 18 years old. I'm currently at uni and I'm studying medicine whilst playing professional football for Man City under 21s.
Really, Man City?
Yeah, Man City, yeah. Why do you find that funny?
I find it kind of hard to believe that there's an Asian female footballer out there.
Totally understand where you're coming from, but there are a few of us out here. Yeah,
Well,
quite a few of us.
Serious. Well, you're the first. Well, I'm not trying to knock your mood or anything, but you are the first that I've heard of.
What makes you say that?
Well, a lot of things in general. I mean, I've been born and raised here in Girlington, which is predominantly an Asian community. And in my 40 years, I've never come across an Asian female footballer.
I find that really hard to, believe because, I think times have changed, really.
Really? You think times have really
I
changed?
do think times have changed now. I'm surprised to hear that because I'm around other Asian footballers, on the daily, so...
Well, I'm glad to hear that, and I'm happy that, you're able to say that. But I haven't really seen that with my own eyes. I run a boxing gym, and I've not seen a single Asian girl come through. Now, I don't know if this is a cultural thing, and I definitely know it's not a religious setback because religion gives Muslim women the rights and freedom.
I definitely don't think that religion has anything to do with it. I agree with you on that. I do think it is cultural. It's about how you've been raised, what your morals are, in the family. I don't know if you've heard of the Olympic Ibtihaj Muhammad.
The fencer.
Yeah, the fencer.
I have, yes.
So, people like her, influential women that are also religious role models, they're proof enough that religion has nothing to do with the stigma of Asian women not being in sport.
So it's more of a cultural thing.
Yeah, definitely. It is a cultural thing.
So Yasmin, let me ask you how you got involved in football.
Growing up, I was definitely, around a male-dominated family. I didn't have many female cousins at all, really. So, I'd take part in all the sports that they would take part in, playing around. It wasn't anything out of the ordinary for me. It was second nature because I wasn't used to playing with dolls and, very girly sort of things. I was always following my cousins around.
So you was a bit of a tomboy?
I was a
If you don't
tomboy,
mind me
yeah.
saying that, okay.
So, yeah, they'd kick around football and I'd join in. I mean, there were other sports, but football was the one that, they were always playing. It didn't matter what it was with. It could be with a pebble. It could be with, a rock on the street. We'd always be playing football.
Playing with a rock.
Yeah.
You must have had like big balloons all over your feet.
Yeah, definitely. I had a swollen toe.
Okay, so let me ask you about your family. How supportive was your family? I mean, what was your father like towards this or your mother?
Initially, I think that they thought it was a phase that I was going through, or maybe they just thought it was something that I was just taking part in because of my cousins and because of my brother. But
So how old was you when you started playing football?
well, I'd say I was around 4. Yeah, I was around 4. I have a cousin who's a year older than me, and
So at this point, it was no concern to them because you're only 4 years old.
definitely not. 4 years old, and it's natural to play. It's natural for a girl to play. With toys that are for boys, and for a boy to play with toys that are for girls. At that age, it isn't an issue. I'd say so. There wasn't really a problem at all.
So was there ever a point where it became a concern or a problem?
Definitely there was, a point where it became a concern. It wasn't very, early days that the
So
problems
how old
occurred.
would you have been about?
I was 4 when I started, joining in with the sport and, taking part. But I'd say around 8 years old, 8 to 9, that's when it started to become a bit of a concern for my parents and other family members actually sort of nattered in my parents' ears about it.
So what was the kind of stuff that they was nattering?
the usual aunties, you know how they can be, you know, expecting you to be in the kitchen and cooking and doing your household chores. I mean, there was a balance always, but there's family members that don't focus on the positive,
So even at
aspects.
11 years old, they was thinking like this.
Yeah, 9, 8, 9, 10, 11, they'd always natter. You know, you can't really blame them for it because they didn't grow up around this sort of thing. I think it's time and, how things evolve, but it did start to become a concern.
Absolutely, I agree with you. So Yasmin, let me ask you, how did your parents respond to other family members being concerned about this?
They brushed it off. It started off with, the nattering from, aunties and a few uncles here and there, But my parents did brush it off. I remember, my dad mentioning that, I'm a kid still. I shouldn't be in the kitchen at that age. I shouldn't be really taking on the responsibilities of someone much older. I should, enjoy my childhood. So it was brushed off initially, but there was a point where it became hard for my parents to ignore.
And what about your mother?
Well, my mother really never cared much. I'd say she really liked that I was in the sport. I think it brought back memories from my mum's childhood, even, but I feel that if that was my mum's childhood, she was definitely brought out of it, if you can understand. So that would have been something that my mum would have enjoyed too. Me and my mum have had conversations where she's mentioned how sport was something she really enjoyed too. So she was trying to, balance things out and allow me to enjoy the sport.
So your mother and father were born and raised here, I
Yeah, they
believe.
were born and raised in the UK.
So here you are playing for your primary school team, and a few years later you go on to play for Bradford City Girls.
Yeah.
Your male cousins that you played with when you was young, how did they respond to that?
Well, I'd say they were supportive, but there was that jealousy. I think more than anything they expected to be there, not me. Obviously on the boys team, not Bradford City Girls, but yeah. So there was they were jealousy, but more so support. I don't think they see things how our parents, well, my parents would see things, or my parents' generation would see things. It's very normal for girls and boys that are my age to be both very involved in sport.
Well, that's a really big leap for an Asian girl coming from an Asian community, because
Thank you, yeah.
I've not heard of such a story in my 40 years.
I'm quite surprised to hear that. I mean, you're saying that not that many women attend the gym, or
Initially, when I opened the gym, I had a female coach, especially for females.
so you went out and you assured that that was something that you offered.
Yeah, because I can understand. I mean, brought up and raised within the Asian community, I knew some of the obstacles that were in the way, and so I went out and brought an Asian female in. I
Wow.
still just couldn't attract Asian women or Asian girls to come into the gym.
What do you think, holds back Asian women in particular?
I
I'd
think
say the Pakistani community, isn't it? I mean, you can't really say.
there are a number of things, aren't there? Let's
There
be
are a
honest.
number of things. I would say it how it is. I do not see this problem in the Indian community. They're considered Asian too. I feel that they're a lot more modern, more westernized, but that balance. They remember their roots, but they don't completely stick to them to the point where they hold. It's quite frustrating.
I think when you talk about being westernized, I think what you mean to say is that they encourage their children to get involved in sports.
Definitely. Like I'd say what I mean by westernized is that they're not that backwards mentality of women should do this and women shouldn't be out
Stay
at
in
this
the kitchen
time,
and
and
stuff.
yeah, that sort of mentality. Don't really see that in the Indian community. I don't really see that anywhere really apart from the Pakistani community, which I'm actually from myself, being a Pakistani. But it's quite frustrating really that my friends don't have these opportunities that I have.
I would kind of blame it on culture more than anything.
It all goes back to culture.
It
Yeah.
definitely does. I think being Asian, you're stereotyped from an early age, and this can be a big problem within the community. I remember when I was in school, Asian girls with fake illnesses when it came to other sports like rounders and cricket.
Definitely, you know what I think that all leads back to, like we're saying, it all leads back to culture, but I feel that
Could it
culture,
just be, sorry, could it just be that Asian girls just don't like taking part?
not at all. You know, we can think back to when we played Bittu, we played all these, you know, these funny sports.
I
When
remember
were
that
Asian,
sport.
when were Asian girls, you know, refusing to play a sport like that? I wouldn't say, you know, it's a professional sport, but in a sense, you are acting athletic. You know, you're athletic when you're playing these sort of games. You know, it brings out the more, you know, sporty side of you. So I don't think that it has anything completely to do with women not
And I
wanting to
totally
take.
agree with you because I played with quite a lot of girls as well when I was young, and we played
Yeah,
games like football and rounders and bitu. So
I definitely think that the Asian community has, you know, really affected the confidence of our Asian girls. You know, how you're talking about separately led swimming sessions, but the girls are still refusing to take part in the sessions, you know, leaving the kids at home, and it leads back to confidence, definitely. You know, I feel that if the elder generation were more supportive and encouraging, girls would feel that it was normal, which I think sport is a normal thing, but many others think it's quite absurd.
okay, define that.
Um, there was a point really where my parents stopped seeing sport as a hobby or a time pass, and they started to realize, you know, this is serious. Our daughter really enjoys this sport. She's playing for Bradford City. She's got a lot going on for her. And I remember having a conversation with my mother where she was basically saying that I needed to be more responsible now and I needed to help out with household chores. And
So how old was you at this point?
I was around 13 maybe at this point, yeah,
Okay.
because I had just newly started playing for Bradford City. I don't think my parents expected it to take off, you know,
The way
how
it
it
did.
did, yeah. So my parents did get to that point where they had to, well, they felt they had to have the conversation with me about taking on household responsibilities, picking up after my brother, things that, you know, people should do, men should do for themselves anyway. You know, I'm not saying that women should completely stop catering for men, but, you know, what a man can do, a man should do, and that should not stop a woman from, you know, living her life, doing the sport that she enjoys. You know, I shouldn't have to stay at home and clean my brother's room because my brother shouldn't have to clean up because he's a man.
Hmm.
So it was very, I say they looked at it in
I
an
know where you're coming
absurd.
from because I think my sister went through that as well with me. It was like a 52 card pickup thing. And my sister was very athletic when she was young. She was a great footballer. She was very strong, tall like me. And she had one hell of a hit, a monster hit when it came to rounders. I mean, she could hit harder and farther than most boys. But then this point came where everything sort of came to an end.
Did you
Well, I
notice it
really,
then, or was it something you noticed
it
years?
was something I noticed then because I used to play with my sister. I used to enjoy playing these sports with my sister. But then came a point where she was no longer allowed to play these sports. And that stung me for a while. That at that age, parents want the girls to grow up.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. You know that's where the stress of the house falls onto your shoulders,
And I
sort
think
of
there's
thing.
a fine line where boys and girls have to be sort of separated. I think parents just want the best for their girls. It is something that boils down to respect. I think they just want to know who the friends are, who they're hanging
Yeah,
about with,
definitely, definitely. I
and
agree
that
with
they're
that.
on track.
I do, you know, I think there's definitely a better way to approach it.
I do feel as though there was a better way to sort of approach it because my sister was playing sports with me. To me, it really didn't matter who was around. As long as she was with me, she was safe. My older brother was around us the whole time. I had a younger brother who was really protective as well. So I think parents should try not to worry as much or be overprotective.
You know, just adding on to that point that you've made about how parents shouldn't worry about their daughters because of family figures, well, male family figures that can protect them. I can't relate to you in that aspect because I'm the eldest of 3 siblings and my brother is younger than me, of course. So he also went to a different school and he wasn't around to protect me. He wasn't around to, keep an eye out on me to see if I was okay. So, my lunch times consisted of playing sports with the boys from school, and I never once saw any of the Asian females from my school in my year group or even any other year group join in, and play, the sport with me. I always found that really quite
Maybe it was
hard.
just football that they didn't like playing.
You'd think that, but during PE lessons, even, I was the most athletic female Asian out of the whole entire year group, and then
And that's why you play for Man
that's
City now.
definitely, yeah, definitely. I really wish that girls are more, were more encouraged back in my day. Leading on from that point, the first, it has nothing to do with religion, as we're saying. It's definitely cultural because, looking at it from a religious aspect, the founder of the first university
Was a Muslim
was a
called
Muslim
Fatima.
woman, yeah,
In the
Fatima
9th
al
century.
Fiqi. Yeah,
1215, I believe, yeah.
yeah. So it's definitely nothing to do with religion. It's all cultural. The religious part. It has nothing to do with religion because our religion, Islam, teaches us that women have as much freedom as men have. The founder of the first university,
Fatima, yeah.
Fatima al
9th
Fiqi.
century.
Yeah, 12, I think it was around 1,200
Yep.
years ago or 1,215 years ago even. She had found that that university.
And there's a prime example.
That's definitely a prime example. Yeah, it's very significant, and the fact that it was in Tunisia, which you wouldn't think was a Muslim city,
influence.
but it was definitely Muslim influence back then. So yeah.
Tell me a little bit about yourself now. You play for Man City. As you've grown older, you've been able to balance everything out in terms of your education, your religion, your home
Definitely.
life, football. How do you
Definitely,
balance everything
definitely.
out and just talk us through that?
So, education has always been on the forefront just because I have, a deal with Man City and I'm playing for Man City. I haven't neglected my education at all, as I have
Which is a good thing
a
because
very good thing.
a lot of kids that I work with, I've seen over the years that as soon as they start winning a few fights and titles,
Education just goes out the window.
out the window, yes.
And I feel that parents don't encourage education. I feel that they think the children and even the children themselves think that sport will be something that they have forever, which you will have sport forever, but the level of sport you have isn't determined at all. So I feel like education was my backup plan, just as sport was my backup plan, if you understand what I'm saying. I never relied so much on football and I never relied so much on education, but I knew I had to be an educated young woman still because anything could happen. My contract could end, or I could just grow on to realize I could even obtain an injury and not be able to play anymore. What would I do if I didn't have education?
Yeah. Now, I noticed earlier you were talking about religious freedom, and in Islam, women do have a lot of rights. But with that being said, there's always a limit as well. Now, when you're playing football for Man City, you have to obviously wear the kit,
Definitely, yeah.
which
There's
is
no
a pair of shorts.
there's no two ways about that, yeah. So, as I've said, I am on a girls only team, but I do still wear the shorts, but there's that level of, where I consider my religion also. So nobody has said to me that I cannot wear, leggings underneath my shorts.
Oh, okay.
And even if that was the case, my religion is much more important to me than clothing. I would stand by my religion completely, and I think I would I wouldn't obey the rules. I'd
So
definitely
sorry,
turn up.
playing for Man City, you do have the option to wear leggings.
I do have the option to wear leggings
And they're pretty cool with
underneath
that.
my shorts. Underneath my shorts, yeah. I could even wear a full tracksuit, but that's only during training.
Could you wear a jilbab?
No, I couldn't wear a jilbab. I think that would be really good though. That would be, if we could do that.
You wouldn't be able to play in a jilbab. You'd be doing.
Yeah,
You'd be
bloody,
playing.
I'd fall all over the place.
You'd be playing jumping. Is it jumping sack?
Definitely, yeah. I feel like, you know what, going on to that, they should make a jilbab that is stretchy enough to play football in. Yeah, we should exercise the rights of all women, definitely. Women that, they could even be women that wear jilbabs that would love to play football too, so...
Stretchy jilbabs.
Yeah, stretchy jilbabs, yeah.
Anyone out there? Stretchy jilbabs. But that's a really good point, because there are people out there that like to dress in jilbabs.
Men too, I think.
Men as well. I mean,
modesty,
if we could get like a stretchy jilbab or something that so men could feel comfortable in as well, and at the same time play sports, because modesty is extremely important for both men and women.
Definitely, definitely. I feel like modesty shouldn't be brought down to what you wear completely all the time. I feel like in sports, there may be circumstances where in another sport, not football, we could say, off the top of my head, I couldn't name a sport, for this example. There's too many, but I feel that there would be an instance possibly where, a Muslim woman may not be able to cover herself completely in that sport. Now, I definitely feel that although it is her duty to cover herself, that leaders of sports should consider that definitely, to make things, available for all people, all women, all men.
Right.
Modesty is definitely about your internal being as well, I think, about your mannerisms, which I feel like men don't really face the problems of, I'd say,
That
the
women
outer
face,
modesty,
yeah.
the outer modesty of covering,
absolutely.
the most that a man would have to do is wear a mosca and, keep his trousers above his ankles. But as women feel the pressure of wearing the hijab. Now we do look at other women that don't wear scarves and just think, I'd love to have, my hair free from this scarf. I would love to just be as everyone else. But I think with religion, you make sacrifices just for your God, really. And I definitely do love wearing it at times. I feel that
Is it because you're in a sport?
Definitely, definitely. But I feel like that's just my look on things. Women that are not in sports could feel the same, we could feel good with the hijab, and we could look at other women and, that are from the same faith, and we could think, wow, these women don't wear the scarf. I wish my hair could be free like that too. But yeah, I'd say that because I hold religion so importantly, I'm able to look past that most of the time, and I just remember why I'm being modest and who I'm being modest for.
Now, I know this is going down a more religious route, but this is all relevant as we speak.
100% relevant. I agree with you, because now that you've mentioned we're going down a religious route, it's definitely also down to a race and your identity. So I don't know if you're familiar with this, but the tennis player Serena Williams.
Absolutely love her.
Yeah, she's amazing. I think she's great at what she does. So I don't know though if you're familiar with the incident that took place a few months ago where she was playing.
Oh, that sparked her all about her dress.
Yeah,
sense,
her
yeah.
attire for the game. Now she
Was that the catsuit she was wearing?
the catsuit, yeah, which fully covers, right? And I don't know if her goal was to be modest or just comfortable, but it was a very modest, piece of clothing. So
was that a piece of modest clothing from your point of view because you're Muslim, or?
I'd say it's as modest as it could get in her situation,
Okay.
I'd say it could still be a lot more modest, as in, a lot looser fitting. If I was to wear it myself, I wouldn't wear it how she wore it, but she still was a lot more modest than the other women around her. Now, my point is that there was a spark of hatred and, quite a lot of anger at what she had worn. It wasn't the focus on the sport anymore, it was her attire. I don't understand that because a white woman who I can't remember the name of actually wore that suit. I don't know if it was a few years ago or more than a few years ago, but she definitely did wear that same cat suit, and she was not scrutinised on the level that Serena Williams was scrutinised for it for. It came down to
Brace.
yeah, it came down to race, definitely. I don't know if Serena Williams would take it that way herself, but I'd say that when you're a woman of colour, you recognise these things. Definitely, even a man of colour would recognise, where somebody's getting scrutinised on something so irrelevant because the person, the perpetrator, has that hatred or that dislike for that person of, colour.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that was stupid. It took away from the sport. And that piece of kit that she wore had no impact on her performance in the sport. I really don't even see why that became an issue.
Yeah, I don't see that either.
So we've only got 2 minutes now before we wrap up. But let me ask you this. Do you feel as though the sport has changed you for the better or for the worse?
I'd say definitely for the better. I don't feel that, I don't feel that my identity was lost at all, or
Hmm.
I don't think I changed much because of the sport. I mean, I went through a series of dilemmas which actually strengthened me, and throughout it all, I always had that balance.
Are they the sort of dilemmas that one would face within the Asian community?
Definitely, I'd say definitely the Asian community always, about the family and the culture and, what you should do and what you shouldn't. But having said that, I always had that balance between my family life, my sports, my, religious values, my studies. I've always kept on top of my studies. I'm doing medicine in university, I didn't do bad for myself. So
It's fantastic.
it's, yeah, if I do say so myself,
So
yeah.
you're a living proof, aren't you?
Definitely. I just want the Asian community to take from this that, you know, things don't have to always be about pleasing other people and pleasing the community. Live a little for yourself, as long as you are not going against your religion or your morals, just ethical morals and, just in general, all morals,
Great.
really.
I'm glad you didn't mention culture in there.
I feel like they know it's definitely culture. They know what they have to do to change it. So from now, it's just about putting an action plan out there. I am living proof of how far an Asian girl can go in
Absolutely.
sport. So all I hope for is that other Asian, young girls, even older Asian women, just I hope that they are motivated by this and encouraged to step out and,
So obviously, with you playing for Man City, you must be in the limelight. How do other Asian girls react around you?
I'd say there's a mixed sort of response to it. I'd say some Asian girls, look up to me as somebody that motivates them, or, somebody that they can turn to for advice on, many situations, not only regarding sport. And I'd say minority of the women I'm speaking about, they are quite hesitant towards me being in the sport. I don't think they understand it. Definitely is not their fault though. I feel that you learn and you mirror behavioral sort of, you know, aspects in your life. So they only get that from their family members. So I'm just hoping that the aspect on me and sport changes
Right. Tell me where you see yourself in 5 years from now.
in 5 years from now. Well, I definitely still do want to be in the sport.
Making millions?
Make millions, yeah. Still on top of my studies. I don't want to completely be in the sport, full time. I do want to put my degree to use. I do want to become a doctor. So
Maybe become an ambassador as well?
yeah, maybe even that. I mean, if I've got this far, what's to say I can't be an ambassador? So yeah, I'd say I want to stick to it. However, if circumstances did change and I didn't go down the professional sport route, in the years coming, this has been a really good experience for me, and
Fantastic.
I just feel like I've done well, and I've really shown the Asian community.
Well, I'm very proud of you, and
Thank you.
if there
Yeah.
are other Asian girls out there that are interested in getting involved in sports, then Yasmin Aslam is the girl that you want to look up. And do you have? So, are you on social media?
No, I'm not on social media. I'm a very private person, but if anybody does want to, speak to me or contact me about anything sports related, or even, anything that they feel I could be of help with, I do visit schools and I do visit communities and youth centres.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, that is somewhere you could find me.
I'm glad you came down to the gym today.
I'm glad I came down to. Thank you for having me.
No, you're welcome, and hopefully I will see you in a few years' time. I'm hoping that you still will give me an interview when you're making millions.
You'll be my first interview, definitely.
Thank
Yeah.
you, I appreciate that, Yasmin.